Good morning, I'm Dilek Tuna. You're watching A News. Here are your top stories. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping hold a meeting in South Korea amid hopes for a trade deal. Trump orders the Pentagon to immediately start testing nuclear weapons after Russia says it tests another nuclear-capable drone. And Hurricane Melissa devastates the Caribbean, leaving dozens dead and thousands homeless. US President Donald Trump has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. The two leaders discussed trade as they work toward restoring a truce in the ongoing trade dispute.
US President Donald Trump has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea on Thursday, as both leaders push for a return to the fragile trade war truce between the world's two largest economies. Their meeting follows talks in Malaysia between US and Chinese trade negotiators who reached a framework agreement pending approval from Trump and Xi. Trump had signalled optimism ahead of the meeting, suggesting a trade deal could soon be signed.
It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected president of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Trump has said he expects to reduce tariffs on Chinese goods in exchange for Beijing's cooperation in curbing exports of chemicals used to produce fentanyl. Xi expressed a willingness to keep working with Trump, saying it was natural for the world's two leading economies to experience occasional frictions.
Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters and stayed in close contact. Under our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other, and it is normal for the two leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves and challenges, you and I at the helm of China-US relations should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations.
The meeting in Busan, the first between the two leaders since Trump returned to office in January, concludes the president's trip across Asia.
US President Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to immediately begin testing nuclear weapons. The move follows Russia's announcement of a successful test of its Poseidon nuclear-capable super tornado.
US President Donald Trump says he has ordered the Department of War to immediately begin testing nuclear weapons. Trump made the announcement on Thursday, citing what he called other countries' testing programs as the reason for his decision. The announcement comes just a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Moscow had successfully tested its Poseidon nuclear-capable super torpedo. The underwater weapon is believed to be an autonomous nuclear-powered torpedo capable of generating massive radioactive ocean waves to make coastal areas uninhabitable.
For the first time, we succeeded not only in launching it from a submarine using its booster motor, but also in igniting the nuclear propulsion system, which the vehicle used for a certain period of time. This is a tremendous success.
After Putin's move, Trump additionally announced the United States will share closely held technology to allow South Korea to build a nuclear-powered submarine. The US has not conducted a live nuclear weapons test since 1992, when then-President George H.W. Bush imposed a unilateral testing moratorium. The moves by both Washington and Moscow signal a potential new phase in global nuclear competition.
Belgium has opened an investigation after 2 drone sightings over a military base in the country's southeast. This is the second case in the country in under a month. Guards at barracks in the city of Marsh and Faman had noticed several drones flying over the military base at night on Sunday and Tuesday, prompting an investigation of the police and military intelligence. NATO countries have been on high alert in recent weeks after drone sightings and other air incursions, including at airports in Copenhagen, Munich and in the Baltic region. Meanwhile, Austria has announced expanding its defence strategy against drone attacks. According to the country's ruling coalition, the plans to strengthen detection and disruption of drones come against the backdrop of the growing threat posed by drones beyond traditional battlefields.
Drohnen können aber auch und werden eingesetzt.
The centre-left D66 party is on track to become the largest party in the Dutch parliament, according to exit polls. The polls project D66 will win 27 seats in the 150-seat lower house, with Geert Wilder's far-right Freedom Party on 25 seats. The right-wing VVD is projected at 23 seats, while the Greens' Labour Party could take 20. If confirmed, the result marks a significant step back for Wilders and opens the path for D66 leader Rob Jetten to form a coalition government. Jetten's popularity grew as he campaigned on housing, education and immigration, with the potential to become the Netherlands' youngest prime minister.
Populist and extreme right movements.
French President Emmanuel Macron hosted a dinner at the Élysée Palace in Paris on Wednesday, bringing together world leaders and officials as part of the Paris Peace Forum. The event gathered heads of state, international organisation representatives and civil society leaders to discuss conflict resolution, climate action and multilateral governance under the forum's annual initiative. Azerbaijan is represented on the panel by Mukhtar Babayev, COP29 president and representative of the President of Azerbaijan on climate issues. Launched in 2018, the Paris Peace Forum serves as an international platform to advance collective solutions to global issues. At least 132 people have been killed in the largest police raid ever carried out in Rio de Janeiro, ahead of next week's C40 Global Summit. The operation has sparked public outrage and prompted the UN to call on Brazil to review its policing methods.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has expressed shock after a police raid in Rio de Janeiro left at least 132 people dead. The operation targeted the Comando Vermelho, Brazil's oldest active criminal organisation, as authorities sought to crack down on drug trafficking ahead of global climate events in the city. Officials say the raid was carried out without the federal government's knowledge.
President Lula was shocked by the number of deaths in Rio de Janeiro. He was also surprised, to some extent, that an operation of this scale was launched without the federal government's knowledge or involvement, and without any opportunity for the federal government to contribute its resources, especially information and logistical support.
Rio de Janeiro's governor defended the operation, calling it a victory and insisting the intention was not to cause deaths.
In yesterday's battle, the police emerged victorious. I repeat, our 4 victims were the 4 police officers killed. The rest were criminals. It wasn't our intention to kill anyone. We wanted to arrest them all alive, but it was retaliation. It was a consequence of the retaliation they carried out and the disproportionate use of force by those criminals.
Residents gathered outside the government palace, expressing anger over how the operation was conducted and demanding accountability. The United Nations has urged Brazil to reform its policing methods to ensure compliance with international standards on the use of force.
The long list of operations resulting in many deaths, which disproportionately affect people of African descent, raises questions about the way such raids are conducted. Brazil must break the cycle of extreme brutality and ensure that law enforcement operations comply with international standards regarding the use of force.
The Rio state government said this was the largest operation in the country's history. Authorities reported arresting 113 suspects and seizing 118 firearms.
Hurricane Melissa has left a trail of destruction across the Caribbean, from Haiti to Jamaica and Cuba, with dozens killed and thousands displaced. Now moving through the Bahamas, the storm continues to unleash heavy rain and flooding.
Hurricane Melissa continues its deadly path across the Caribbean, leaving behind catastrophic damage in Haiti, Jamaica and Cuba. Now downgraded to a Category 1 storm, Melissa is moving across the Bahamas, bringing torrential rain, powerful winds and dangerous storm surges. Authorities say dozens are dead and thousands displaced across the region. In Haiti, at least 25 people have been killed and 18 remain missing, according to the Civil Protection Agency. The southern coastal town of Les Cayes was among the worst hit, where floodwaters swept away homes and families. 10 of the victims were children.
The situation is not good for us. When it's raining, the kids can't sleep. We don't get anything to give them. During the night, we can't rest. We're standing up all the time. No sleep for adults, neither for the children.
In Jamaica, where Melissa made landfall Tuesday as a record-breaking Category 5 hurricane with winds reaching 298 kilometers per hour, at least 8 people were killed. Neighborhoods are submerged and roads buried under mud and debris.
At one stage, I see the water at my waist, and about 10 minutes time, I see it around my neck here, and I make my escape.
More than 3/4 of Jamaica remains without electricity, and initial estimates suggest damages could exceed $22 billion. After pounding Jamaica, Melissa made landfall in Cuba on Wednesday as a Category 3 hurricane, bringing relentless rain and strong winds. In Santiago de Cuba, homes were destroyed and roads cut off by landslides. Cuban authorities said 735,000 people were evacuated before the storm hit, preventing an even greater loss of life. As Melissa moves north through the Bahamas, forecasters warn that life-threatening flooding and powerful winds will continue into Thursday. Across the Caribbean, emergency teams are racing to reach stranded communities as nations grapple with the full scale of Melissa's devastation.
Earth is approaching a critical climate threshold that world leaders once vowed to avoid. Scientists warn the planet is heating faster than ever, bringing record temperatures, deadly storms and shrinking forests.
Earth is approaching a critical climate threshold that world leaders once vowed to avoid. For the first time, global warming is approaching 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, a key limit under the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Governments pledge to keep warming well below 2 degrees Celsius, aiming to cap it at 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Over the decades, governments have been discussing and deciding, together with input from scientists, where the limit should be put in terms of global warming. In 2010, a limit was set to keep warming below 2 degrees. But already at that time, over 100 countries did not consider that an acceptable limit. For them, 2 degrees constitutes too high risks and too high impacts for their societies and their survival. So that is why, based on further scientific information, in 2015, the Paris Agreement set a long-term temperature goal of limiting warming well below 2 degrees and to pursue to limit it to 1.5 degrees.
In 2024, global temperatures hit record highs. The World Meteorological Organization confirmed the planet was 1.6 degrees Celsius hotter than the late 1800s, the hottest year ever recorded. Every year since 2015 ranks among the 10 warmest on record. the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, which stabilizes Europe's climate, has weakened by 15% since 1950. Marine life is bleaching worldwide, from the Great Barrier Reef to Brazil. Warmer oceans fuel stronger storms. On land, rivers shrink, forests dry, and wildfires rage across the US, Canada, southern Europe, and Russia's Far East.
The severity of these impacts and also the irreversibility of these impacts will drastically increase. Irreversibility means that even if we would be cooling down our planet in the future, some things are lost forever. And a key example here are the loss of species, the loss of ecosystems, and also, in some cases, the loss of life and entire cultures.
Crossing 1.5 degrees Celsius isn't just a number. It's a planetary alarm ringing through fire, flood, drought, and storm.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is visiting Turkey today. Merz will meet with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan today at the presidential complex in Ankara to talk on Turkish-German relations and cooperation, Turkey's EU accession process and regional security challenges. Kazakhstan and the United States are looking to further deepen their economic partnership. Prime Minister Olsas Bektenov has held talks with U.S. Special Envoy for South and Central Asia, Sergio Gore, and U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau. The sides focused on expanding trade and investment cooperation across several key sectors. The Prime Minister said that Kazakhstan continues to implement systemic measures to create favourable conditions for foreign businesses. During the meeting, the parties discussed prospects for expanding trade ties and strengthening investment cooperation. The discussions covered a broad range of sectors such as industry, digital development, energy, agriculture, transport and logistics. According to the National Bank of Kazakhstan, since 1993, the US has invested a total of $61.2 billion in Kazakhstan. The volume of mutual trade has doubled in the past 5 years, reaching $4.2 billion. Kazakhstan has started preliminary work on its first nuclear power plant, a project seen as a major step toward energy independence. Our Fariza Kalimurzina has more.
Kazakhstan has begun preliminary work on its first nuclear power plant. The country's Atomic Energy Agency chairman Almasadam Satkaliyev announced. More than 70 boreholes have already been drilled with soil samples sent for testing. Preliminary seismic and mapping surveys have also been completed. Satkaliyev noted that according to International Atomic Energy Agency standards, the preliminary research will take about 18 months. The project is expected to require approximately $14 to $15 billion, and the Russian company plans to complete construction by 2035. The site for Kazakhstan's first nuclear power plant was officially approved in February this year in the Almaty region. Meanwhile, the country's authorities stated that the second and third plants will be built by China. In October of last year, a referendum was held in Kazakhstan with official results showing that more than 71% of citizens supported the construction of a nuclear power plant. Later, President Tokayev announced that the country would build not one but 3 nuclear power plants, emphasizing that this is important for creating a new energy sector that will provide a solid foundation for economic development for decades to come. At the same time, experts note that the Chinese plants could be built faster and cheaper than Rosatom's project, and they expressed doubts about Russia's ability to fulfill long-term commitments amid economic pressure, sanctions, and the ongoing war. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A News.
The long-discussed strategic Zangezur corridor is becoming a focal point in the South Caucasus. As regional economies look to boost trade and connectivity, new projections suggest the corridor could reshape integration from the Caspian to the Mediterranean.
Stretching across the South Caucasus, the Zangezur corridor is emerging as one of the most defining connectivity projects of the decade. More than a transport link, it represents a vision of renewed regional integration connecting Azerbaijan with Nakhchivan and Turkey through Armenia and forming a vital segment of the broader route linking the Caspian Basin with European markets. The corridor has the potential to become a turning point for the South Caucasus. Beyond simply facilitating trade, it can strengthen economic interdependence, improve regional connectivity, and support the development of more diversified and resilient economies. For Azerbaijan, it could expand non-oil exports and open faster access to European markets. For Armenia, it offers a rare opportunity to overcome isolation and move beyond re-export dependency. And for Georgia, a complementary role in connecting east and west through its Black Sea ports and multimodal logistics network. To understand the corridor's potential, current trade and transport data offer a useful baseline across the South Caucasus. The assessment is based on comparative trade data from 2019 to 2025, using a difference in differences model to estimate the corridor's expected impact once fully operational. Projections show that regional exports could rise by around 25%, with cumulative GDP gains across the South Caucasus reaching up to $2.5 billion by 2030. Contrary to some discussions around the topic, if Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia identify their strengths and maximize them, they will all benefit from this new transformation. The corridor's deeper value lies in its ability to reshape regional dynamics, aligning economies, encouraging cooperation and promoting balanced competition across borders. It symbolizes not just a line on the map, but a framework for sustainable regional partnership. Ultimately, the Zangezur corridor is not only a transport project, it is a catalyst for reshaping regional dynamics in a way that could enable long-term stability and shared prosperity. A project born out of geography, now redefining the future of the South Caucasus.
Georgia's President Mikhail Kavalishvili says his country remains committed to joining the European Union. However, the Georgian president insists the process must protect national values and interests. In an interview with Ajara television, Kavalishvili said that Georgia's path toward Europe began long ago and has been a historic aspiration of many generations. He noted that the country has faced numerous challenges over the centuries, but has always prioritized preserving its national identity. The Georgian government announced last November that it would not bring EU membership negotiations to the agenda until 2028. The ruling Georgian Dream Party has asked the Constitutional Court to ban 3 opposition parties in a move raising serious questions about Georgia's future direction. Nini Nikolashvili has more from Tbilisi.
In Tbilisi, the ruling Georgian Dream Party has submitted a constitutional lawsuit seeking to outlaw 3 opposition forces: the United National Movement, the Coalition for Change, and Strong Georgia Lelo. The government says the step fulfills a key election promise to provide a legal and political assessment of what it calls the national movement's past regime. According to parliamentary leaders, the lawsuit is based on the findings of a 6-month investigation that concluded these opposition parties have repeatedly refused to recognize election results, encouraged unrest, and acted against the constitutional order. Supporters of the ruling party argue that this is a matter of protecting democracy from groups that have undermined the rule of law for years. Parliament Speaker Shalva Paplashvili also addressed concerns that banned parties could re-emerge under new names after a constitutional court ruling. He explained that a new legal mechanism known as the Successor Party Institution is meant to close any loopholes that would allow previously banned organizations or their members to continue political activity through renamed entities. Under this rule, the Constitutional Court would have the power to
review and ban such successor formations within 2 weeks, further tightening control over political parties deemed unconstitutional. However, the decision has provoked strong criticism from opposition figures and rights advocates. Former President Salome Zurabishvili warned that banning major political forces risks turning Georgia toward an authoritarian model, arguing that it undermines free competition and silences dissent. Analysts say that the implications are significant. While the government claims that it is defending constitutional order, critics fear it could erode political pluralism and restrict freedom of association. Nini Nikolaishvili, Tbilisi, A News.
You're up to date with world news for this morning. From all of us in the studio, thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.